Don't forget to subscribe to Basement Tales. Just go on Apple, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts and hit that subscribe button. We release a podcast every Thursday. That way you'll be sure not to miss an episode. Welcome to Basement Tales with Sam Jackman, Charlie Einsman, Ed Grass, and Sandra Delancey. We have fun telling crazy but true stories about turning the worst possible property disasters into bags of money. Along the way, we'll pass along some important lessons to help you make cash on real estate. Sam and Charlie walked away from cubicle hell 25 years ago. Starting with no property, they created their own Clear Sky group of companies, sold hundreds of houses, bought dozens of rentals, and made millions in hard money loans. I'm Ed, a big firm litigator until muscular dystrophy made me find a hobby other than suing people. I miss it. Sandra's the normal person here with a real job plus some rentals. Her decades of friendship with the group, from office flunkies to property gurus, might help keep us all humble and focused on learning something. I wouldn't count on it. All right, who's got a tale of woe for this?
We have them. Charlie's got a good one.
I've got the weekly tale of woe.
Yeah.
And all right, so we ready to go?
Yeah, man, do it. Start saddening us all.
Okay. The story starts out from a phone call from an SEC attorney.
Red flag.
Red flag. And he goes to me, he goes, I know your kids.
Wait, SEC is Security Exchange Commission?
Yeah, SEC attorney. And this is going to lead me to...
okay. I thought, Charlie, it might be basketball.
Real estate story. SEC attorney.
It would be a lot better if it was basketball.
Yeah. And so I didn't find out that he was an SEC attorney until after he announced who he was, told me his name and why he was calling. I figured this out about 10 minutes after the phone call because I like to research people who call me out of the blue. So he calls me and he goes, he's very vague. He goes, I know your kids, and one of your kids' friends, who I'm not going to tell you their names, is buying a house, a brand new house, unrepresented as a realtor. So I can't give you their names, and I can't even tell you which kid they know. However, they need help because they're buying a brand new house from a builder in a portion of Virginia. Can I announce the city, Sam, or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They're buying a house in Front Royal, Virginia, and they're going directly through the builder without a realtor. And he goes, I think there's problems with the deal, and I don't think these clients know what they're doing. And without telling me their names or even which one of my sons that they know, he goes, can you please represent them as a realtor? So I said to him, I said, look, I said, we haven't done retail real estate in probably in 3 or 4 years. I said, we're totally in the investment game. He goes, I know. He goes, that's why I'm calling you, because he knows about Clear Sky Financial. He knows about Clear Sky Properties. We fix and flip houses. He knows somewhat about our development experience. He goes, I need you to help them. I said, okay, sir. I said, even if we get paid or don't get paid, I said, since one of the buyers is a friend of one of my kids, I will be glad to help you guys. Okay. This is where the story gets better. So these guys are desperate buyers. And because of this market where there's no inventory, low interest rates, it is very hard to buy a house. So these guys went out and talked to this builder about buying a house. And they were about ready to write a contract to buy a house. And the builder so they met the builder and they met the builder's realtor, but nobody was representing them. So they felt a little nervous about it. And so the details of the story are as follows. They were going to put a contract on a landlocked piece of land. Okay. So a builder was going to convey to them and build a house at the time of a landlocked piece of land that they wanted these guys to enter into a contract with, get this, Ed, a non-refundable deposit.
So did it come with a helipad? I guess
right. So that's the real question of the day. But this is before we even started researching it. So I said to the lawyer, I said, okay, have your clients, whoever they were, contact me and give me the address. Okay, give me the address and just email me, call me up. And so he did. And so it was a friend of one of my kids, but he didn't want my kids to know who it was and that they were buying a house. So he sends me the address. So I quickly get the address and I look it up in the MLS. Well, guess what? This property has been active in the MLS for over a year.
No.
Okay, red flag number one. I'm like, no, there's no such thing as properties being in the MLS for over a year, not in this market. And so, of course, the price was like $339.9, but they wanted them to write a contract for $359.9, which that kind of makes sense because since the year has gone by, building materials and building supplies have gone up, especially lumber has tripled in the last year. So I get it. It's a 20 grand. Okay, no big deal. It goes up $359.9. But then as we get further into looking at the lot of where the property was going to be built on, we determined that it was landlocked. In other words, there was a public road that ended at a certain house. But this lot was 2 lots up from where the public road ended. And so there were one of 3 things needed to happen. Either they needed to extend the public road, or they needed, like Sam said, to get an abandonment of the public road, or they needed to get an easement. Now, the county owned the land between the end of the public road and the land that goes actually to the second lot that they were going to build on. Okay, so there was a realtor involved on the other end. And so when they got me involved, I announced it right away to the realtor other side. I said, look, I am now involved. I am representing these buyers, such and such buyers. And I understand that they had already come out to you, talked to you and talked to the builder, and they had checked themselves in. I said, but I'm telling you right now, we are on their side. We're representing them. So a week goes by. I email this agent every day, during the day. I get replies back at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 10 o'clock at night. I can never get this person during the day. Okay. So I'm thinking they're a part-time agent. I look up their background, and of course they hadn't done much development experience at all. So then we went round and round and we sent the buyers. Oh, and by the way, this lot had power lines on it, right? Another red flag, power lines on the lot. So I went with Sam's help. We went back to the buyers and we said, look, there's a problem with this lot. I said, your lot is landlocked. I said, either the builder has to do one of 3 things in order for you to write up a contract. I said, have they done any of these things yet? And so, of course, I don't know if the clients really understood what I was talking about, but it doesn't seem like the builder did it. So then what I did, which I probably, it's probably against realtor ethics, but because of the inexperience of the other agent.
That was quotation marks.
Yeah, that was quotation marks. So because of that, I went around the realtor and I went directly to the builder themselves because I had to understand and how we're going to get around this road issue, right?
What's the plan? I mean, they could give
Right.
a free helicopter as option 1.
Option 4. Yeah, the free helicopter.
That's option 4.
Yeah, option 4, right? Because public, the way it goes for you listeners is whenever somebody is building a house, the number one thing they have to do is prove that they have a buildable lot, which means it's, it fronts up to a road, or if it's landlocked, they have an easement, or they have something. In other words, it has to be a buildable lot with a site plan, and the house has to be sited. Okay. So I went around the realtor because I was sick and tired of dealing with this because I knew something wasn't right. And so I go directly to the builder. Well, as you can imagine, she was not happy to hear from me. And so I went to her, I said, hi, this is Charlie Einsman. I said, I happen to be a realtor. And then I explained to her my background just so she could understand, that we were on par. And I said, we have a problem with this particular lot. I said, my clients cannot write a contract unless one of these 3 things happens to this landlocked parcel. And then she gets all pissed off at me and she comes back and she says, well, when I met with these clients, I told them that we had an agreed upon easement and that everything was taken care of. I said, okay. I said, that's all I needed to know. I said, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and write up the contract, and we're going to go ahead and submit it. I said, I'm going to put some builder performances in there. I said, we're not going to do a non-refundable deposit. I said, we're just not doing it. And so we got off the phone. And so I thought everything was okay. Then what I did is and then she goes, oh, but you have to go through my realtor to do this. I said, okay, no problem. I will go through your realtor. Thank you for your time. I'm glad that you have the easement so that we can move forward. All right. So what I did is I sent the realtor an email and I said, we are going to submit an offer. This was at night. We're going to submit an offer tomorrow. But before I submit the offer, I need you to show me proof of an easement. I said, either I need to see a deed of easement or direct me to the county records, or just go ahead and send me the paperwork where the county has approved the easement. Okay. Less than 12 hours go by. I wake up to yet another email at 4:50 in the morning saying, Charlie, this deal is off. My builder has decided to pull the property off the market.
Too busy. They're too busy to get to it.
They're too busy to get to it.
No, they're not going to be able to build.
Do you think they were playing?
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Sandra.
Oh, I was going to say, so what would have happened if your client had gone through with this deal, written up a contract?
Well, what would have happened is the builder did not have a buildable lot as of today. They were going to make them put a non-refundable deposit down. And what we were thinking is that they were going to use the non-refundable deposit to complete the engineering work and to maybe get the easement that doesn't exist from the county. That's what our thought was. And so if the easement wasn't procured from the county, we think the client was going to lose 15 grand. And then they were going to have to sue them for their money back.
So the
client that was my question. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing, maybe $1,000 or something, whatever, but wow, 15,000, that's real money. And
they want a non-refundable deposit.
So get the client to pay for it. And then if it doesn't happen, the client's out of money and you haven't lost a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first thing you really look at when you're looking at a lot is access. And we had another issue come up the same week about access, right? So we're developing a lot in Woodbridge. This is another basement tale. We have a very hostile neighbor. Now, the neighbor is hostile because they don't want to see any development at the end of the road. So is
it you, Sam, that creates the hostile neighbors?
Oh, God, Sam is a man. Booger's stick.
He's nice to me, usually.
Oh.
Yeah, Booger's stick. Yeah. He creates all kinds of problems.
All kinds of things. Well, what amazes me in life is people live next to either a big vacant lot or an abandoned building, and they're like, oh, that'll never get developed. Like, in what world is a really congested area never developed? So we have a piece of property that's by right 4 lots. It has one house on it now that's old and could be just removed. I mean, it's really at the end of its functional utility. So it's not desirable really anymore the way it's configured. So we want to put 4 houses there. No problem. We want to do it by right. We hire a company, an engineering company, to design it for us for 4 lots by right. First thing we say is, no matter what we do, we want to be completely within the law and the zoning, and we don't want any interaction with our neighbors. We don't want to say hello to them. We don't want to say goodbye to them. We're not trying to make friends. We're not trying to make enemies. We're just trying to take our asset and develop it within the constraints that exist today with no modifications. Okay, we get that, they say. Now, fast forward, maybe $50,000 more in engineering and just getting nitpicked to death and then delayed on deliverables. It's a very typical engineering services company experience. And now we're near the end. They're forecasting that they're going to have this submitted any time now by right. And they say, we just looked at something. The way the road connects to your property means that we're going to have to expand onto the neighbors, who's the hostile neighbor. We're going to have to expand onto their property in order to make this work. And so we get on the phone with them, an immediate conversation, and they are starting to propose solutions around it, retention walls and this and that. So, well, didn't you see this, like, from a client perspective? That was the first thing we asked. And they're like, yeah, well, we didn't really notice the slope of the land when we started looking at the property. I'm like,
the swale has been there for a long time.
I mean, yeah, nothing has changed here in 30 years. Like, what? So that's the flip side of it. If you don't look at it in advance and you get stuck out there. And so in our case, it's a little more complicated because it's not obvious what improvements need to be done for 4 units a subdivision and such. Then the first case that Charlie went over, it is pretty obvious. You have to have a driveway to your house. So you have to have some sort of come off of some sort of public road. And there was none there.
Yeah. And so in my story, the builder's solution was they were just going to put down a gravel driveway up to their house. And then furthermore, she
just throw it in.
Yeah, she got even more mad at me. And she goes, I would never develop an unbuildable lot, and I would never do this. But I was like, well, do you have the easement? And of course, they never showed it. So
first of all, why is she talking like that? What's wrong? What's wrong with this woman? She needs to stop doing whatever it is that's making her talk like that. But the other thing is,
smoking.
There's a lot of something going on.
There I go, making friends and influencing again. Like
eating rocks or something. I don't know. But the other thing is, Sam, you were saying that, don't make friends with the neighbors. What is that all about? Why don't you want to get to be friends with anyone? You just want to get in there.
Well, I mean, you're not going to live there, right? So you're not going to be going over their house on 4th of July.
To get to know people and to be friendly.
You do have to be, yeah. But sometimes when you're changing the use of a property, the neighbors are not that excited about it. They're not excited to see an improved asset right next to them. They don't want to see your construction people. They don't want to see any changes. They just like everything just the way it is. So,
and you already had gotten some pushback from this person too. It's not
no.
For her, she reached out to us. She said, "Oh, I'll buy the land, so I'll extend over into your area." And we said that would be great. And then she had no money to buy the land, and so that didn't work out too well.
No, that doesn't work.
And now on this particular, at the end of the road, so our neighbor has paved some of the public right-of-way, and she uses it to store her own construction trucks in the public right-of-way that will have to be developed to be the road access to our property. So that now we're starting to really understand why she doesn't want development, because it interrupts a space that she's already using, sort of, borrowing from the state, for its use. And then when it's fully developed, it'll have a car there, and I don't know that she'd be able to park her vehicles there.
Would you be willing to sell her part of it so that she can continue to use it? I mean,
that's a public right of way. That's the we're talking about.
No, that's not true.
Public space.
She was calling me all the time, and then we actually had an agreed upon deal for her to buy it, but then she reneged on us. And so we just haven't really spoken to her since. But we were already warned by.
She was hostile to her tenants.
Yeah, she's already hostile to her tenants. She's calling me all the time about, the trash being put out on the wrong day and about this and about that. So we already know it's a hostile neighbor. I mean, that's why.
There's no HOA. This is like on a country road. The trash is out on the wrong day, allegedly. He can put the trash at the end of his driveway 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He's just putting trash at the end of his driveway.
Could you overdevelop?
She's spying on him with binoculars. She's coming over, looking over the edge with binoculars to see what he's doing when he's repairing the roof and stuff.
Well, could you overdevelop it with her okay and the county's okay, so that whatever use she's making maybe could be sort of normalized and would be protected, and then she'd be happy? I assume that's probably, there's not enough space to do that, but sometimes I guess in some circumstances, if you can, I guess the word phrase pay somebody off sounds bad, but if you can make an improvement that takes care of what their real problem is, as you know, sometimes I am called the problem solver. And one thing that's hard though, is a lot of people won't really tell you what they want. I mean, a lot of times it's money, but like here, it sounds like maybe what's the number one concern she has is parking for business trucks. So maybe you can help that, maybe you can't. And I'm sure you've probably considered this, but sometimes somebody who's hostile, it's something that you can actually do for them that they really care about. Now, if she's just like, I don't want 4 houses where there's one, I mean, I understand that, but there's nothing you can do to help that.
I understand that too, and I would feel the same way if I were her. But the problem is that that's a 4-lot site.
It also shows you, like in the Charlie's example, I mean, that builder, whoever bought that land was taking a risk, and hopefully they got it for a cheap value and they figured they'd try to work on the easement or whatever. But that's why developers can make good profits is it's hard to put this stuff together. If you're looking at a beat up old house and you're going to kind of fix it up or replace it on the same footprint, generally, not always, could be historic issues, whatever. Generally, that's a pretty safe bet that you're going to be able to fix it up. But anytime you want to expand the footprint, you start to get into lot boundaries and grandfathered this and access roads. And, some of it's obvious, like Charlie's situation. That developer should have known that immediately, and they probably did. And they just figured, we'll take a flyer and risk it later. And if they do and they make a lot of money, great. God bless. That's how you add value in these development things. Same for you. I'm sure you're going to beat your head against the wall to get the engineers and the roads and the retaining walls. And if you can get all that through, then you're going to probably make a decent profit by having 4 lots where you had 1 before.
Yeah. And just in my story, the way she approached it, that was ass backwards. You need to get the easement first, right, and then get the house situated on the lot and get the engineering done before you even ask people to write an offer on an unbuilt house. So what she did was totally backwards. Maybe they have a connection into the county which we don't know about, and it'll be easier said than done. But this property was on the market for over a year, and this hadn't been done in a year. So I just question that.
Yeah, why not in that situation make it perfectly normal to make it contingent on getting an easement? I mean, they could say, all right, it's $359, put down a $15,000 deposit, but if we can't get an easement in the next 90 days, you're off the hook. And you can decide what you want to do. You can cancel the contract. That's normal. And maybe even they're so desperate, they say, okay, we'll give you $2,000 non-refundable for the process, I suppose, if that's you're taking a risk. But that's really the developer's risk that they should do that. Or as you say, it'd be much smarter if it's doable, get it done, because then they can present it as here's a regular. You can buy a custom house here. Here's the permit right here.
Yeah, but the next issue is how much is the county going to charge them for the easement, right? And so if that number is way out of whack, the developer is just going to simply pull out and say, oh, this price is too low, I need to raise the price, right? Because these two events are dependent upon one another, because if the cost of the easement is too much money, then the builder isn't going to, maybe they'll break even, or maybe they won't make as much money as they want to make. Really, it's going to have to fall back onto the client whether or not they're going to pay for that or not.
And I didn't feel like it was going to be an easement. I thought it was going to be a street upgrade, to extend the street to the end, curb it, put the turnaround in, put the driveway in, and then they would have access to that lot for building.
They weren't even willing to pay for a paved driveway.
Right.
They wanted to make it a gravel.
I think the county's next step is like, oh no, we're not going to give you a easement on a road. We're going to make you build the road, and then you can have a driveway. And that's much more normative. I've not even seen it.
Yeah, I wonder, would a county typically want to get paid directly, or they would want
the road improvement.
The improvement, which is a sense of payment, but it certainly costs money. But they're not going to say, like, give us $10,000.
They may in some jurisdictions. Yeah. But not for an easement. They would you do the road, and then you give us $10,000 to the general fund, and that will go towards the park improvements that we're going to do ourselves, where we add a kiddie play gym, or we put a connecting path or something. It'll be sort of earmarked, but you do have to, when you do development, often make a general fund direct payment. Depends on the scope of the project, right? They can make you put in quite a bit. This is their window for a cash grab. They're trying to weigh the value of your development, how much that's adding to the community versus the cost that the community will bear as a consequence of your development, of increased density, increased schools, and so forth. So they try to come to some reasonableness that you can still have development. But that's why all these projects, especially close into the city, are so very much expensive. The land development costs are so high between the legal aspects of it and then the county approval aspects of it, and it just causes the length of the time to lapse a couple, 3 years while you're holding land and you're not sure about what your out price will be, and all that has to be factored in, and the guy has to make the team has to make some profit. So these things are so complicated, the land and access.
Well, like we said, I've been a insurance nerd, and I like to read insurance policy, and land use stuff gives me a headache because it's a combination of some very arcane rules, and then they're applied by people sometimes correctly, sometimes with an interpretation you don't agree with, and it's a hard process to appeal, and sometimes you get great people to work with, and sometimes you don't, to put it mildly, who maybe have personal preferences about development. And man, I don't envy it when you guys run into that, but it's unfortunate because frankly, I don't know if I'm being political, but if it worked better and simpler, and it was clearer, it'd be better for businesses and people to know what they can build. You'd probably get stuff built nicer, more environmentally friendly, like you're talking about. But because the process is opaque, a lot of things don't work very well, and the county doesn't get as much as they could or should. There's got to be a better way to do it. And you'd like to think people could just work reasonably, but that doesn't usually work very well. You got to have all these rules written up by lawyers. And as Sandra knows, you can't find a lawyer for a flat $4.99. Not for this.
Wait. Was it $4.99 or was it $2.99, Sandra?
$4.99. I'll pay $4.99. I mean, is that why you guys have typically stayed away from development work?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's why it's extremely high risk. So you will hear about some very affluent developers. You hear a lot of broke ones too, because they're gambling on the boat all the time. They have no way of being certain about their outcomes when they begin, and then if you get to the end and you don't get the outcome that you're seeking, all the money's gone.
Yeah, and that brings
that's how you end up to be broke.
Well, not only that, but that brings up the story of the guy that owned, 30 or 40 acres over in 22192, and about 7 years ago. 7 years ago, this poor fellow wanted $20 million. Let's say it's 40 acres. He wanted $20 million for this 40 acres, right? And so he was trying to think that he
was living like. You have to add the basement tales factor, right? So they had a lot of family members of every variety, and all living near one another on a clustered housing on this acreage, right? So it was a little bit random when you go over there. They do a lot of shooting. This is like in the middle of the county. They do a lot of shooting
of people, shooting like out in the woods.
Yeah, just shooting
on their land. Shooting their guns.
Okay.
They'd have like moon bounce dances. It was a lot of different stuff going on at this
right. But it was 22192, and it was literally within 5 miles of 95. So let's say 40 acres. This was prime real estate. The problem is that it was zoned agricultural, which is A1, which is not a very good zoning, but the guy wanted $20 million. So
and he had a $4.99 lawyer.
Right, and he had a $4.99 lawyer. So this story.
There was no unlocking him from the $20 million or the $4.99 lawyer.
Right. So he wanted us over and us to maybe buy it at some ridiculous price, and we weren't going to get
$18 million value point.
Yeah, 18
You're getting
million,
a discount.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And so this was about 7 years ago. And so finally, and he was trying to retire down to North Carolina. Well, the last time we looked, the land finally did sell.
Yeah.
And it sold for what it sells, Sam, like for like $2.5 million.
$2.5 million.
So
which was a great value. If you could get it at $2.5 million and then hold it and develop it, but it actually went to the county for $2.5 million. The county's going to use it for public school.
Oh, that's good.
So they can instantly get their zoning approval. They don't have any issues with approvals.
So when I see these old foreclosure lots around here, I saw one over in PG County where it seems like a builder pulled out of a development, early. I don't know. They had a few lots left and they're selling them at auction. Is that something that I should be aware of or beware of?
Oh, man.
Oh, beware.
Beware.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question, though. What would be good enough due diligence, guys? If there's like an approved building permit, that's good enough to go with something like that.
It's already approved. I mean, they were going to build homes there, so it's in a development.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well,
Just because they say it's already approved, maybe that's why they're leaving. Is it not? Didn't get approved.
So let's just give one builder story I heard this week. A guy bought 5 lots from us in Alexandria, and they were already fully developed. That means that from the standpoint of that you could pull a permit and put the road in immediately, and the sewerage. Before he's into it for a month, he finds out that the gas company wants to charge him $40,000. They've never charged before for gas connections. The neighbor has some sort of problem that's ditching water out onto this public street that he has to pay to resolve. The list just goes on. So they were ready to build, but even if he's a very sophisticated builder, he's built thousands of homes. He couldn't forecast changes and it's literally a mile from his office headquarters. So he's working exactly where he knows. And there's so much uncertainty in these things. I don't know.
Tell about the cost of, but then say about the cost of lumber.
Yeah. So he bought it from us, and the cost of lumber has gone up really dramatically from the time that he acquired it. It's gone up threefold to when he has to actually buy the lumber and build it. So he's subject to all these market condition changes. And then he doesn't know what will happen at the end when he's finally finished the road and built the house with the overpriced lumber, if the market will still be holding and support these prices that he's got. So just coming for the average person coming into that deal, I wouldn't do it. We wouldn't even do it ourselves. And so I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, I knew as soon as Sandra said, why don't you do that kind of work? The word work was in there, and that immediately caused some concern. And I get that. And I was just telling my son about the Sammy plan today, which is, if at all possible, when you do one of these deals, you want to have, the worst thing that happens to you is you don't make as much money as you thought you might. Not that the worst thing that happens is you go bankrupt. This is not a good, if you say, well, if things go okay, I can make a lot of money. So what happens if things go bad? Oh, I'm done. I'm bankrupt. I'm going to be shot in the street. This is not a risk that Sam and Charlie like to take. That involves work and stress, which are the two, if you can look at something and say, okay, every reason this should go well, I'm making some money right now, and worst comes to worst, I break even, or I only make a smaller profit than I thought I might. Now it's not easy to do. That means passing up deals. That means walking away from stuff, or like the one you didn't want to deal with the development of that property that came back to you, so you sold it. You may have, quote unquote, given up some profit, but you gave up a lot of work and a lot of stress.
Yeah, that's right.
That and we somebody who's more specialized.
And we gave up, more importantly, we gave up a lot of market risk, right? Because the number one thing about this developers is that these things don't take 3 months. They take a year, 2 years, and 3 years. And so at that point in time, you're at the mercy of the market risk. Now, fortunately for us, we're on a nice run up here. Who knows when it's going to end, but you're at risk. And I don't like that.
And he knew it when I talked to him just the other day. He knew it. He was telling me all his complaints, and he was worried about the market risk.
Yeah. And of course, I'm sure you told him no discounts and no give backs is probably the response. He said,
it's funny. No, it's funny, Ed, because the response was, hey, when you guys get done with Sam's story number 2, can you send it my way?
4-lot subdivision, yeah.
Yeah, he wants,
because that's just his game. Yeah. He's been playing this his whole life. I don't know how he lives through the day, to be honest. It seemed pretty stressful.
He likes it, I guess.
He likes it.
Well, the only way I could imagine it makes some sense is if it's kind of like at the casino. If you take half your winnings and stick them in your pocket and never play with those, and then you just keep playing with the house's money. Yeah. If you lose it all on that, you're still okay. The bankruptcy is not the option. So it must be fun for people that like to do that. I mean, it is cool. The ones that you've developed, Sam, are neat properties, and it's a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And you've learned a lot, both negatively and positively.
Oh, yeah.
It just seems much better, to do fix and flips, or even better to loan money to other people to do the fix and flip. I guess that's why there's so many banks out there. It's better to be a banker than a borrower for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Well, that's good.
All right. I was hoping you could encourage me to like buy a lot and build a home.
Well,
Sell
what
it,
we
but
could no. Here's the encouraging. Here's the money making tip of the day.
yes.
What you want to do is buy something where you can subdivide it and make it into many lots. So let's say you have that acre, right? We'll just keep it simple. We'll just say an acre, right? And so the zoning is what's called R4.
Mhm.
So the R stands for residential and the 4 stands for 4 units an acre. So if you buy 1 acre, I don't know, it's like, I'm making up numbers, at 200 grand, but then you can take that 1 acre, split it up into 4 lots. You're not going to spend $499 for a lawyer. You might need to spend $50,000 to get it split into 4 lots. But then if you sell each lot for $200,000 a lot, there you go. That's how you make money on the land development game. Does that make sense?
Assuming it all works out, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
your
well,
worst case in that scenario is you still have the 1 lot.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. If you buy something and it's already
Yeah.
worth what you're paying for it, and you have the chance to make more, that's okay. You know, you buy it for 200, you can sell it for 220.
Yeah.
Probably that wasn't really worth your time, but at least, you know, then you take the flyer. Maybe I can turn 200 into 500 or whatever.
Yeah. I can take the 1 lot, divide into 4.
Well,
But you're saying it's already an R4. So what if it's an R1? And am I looking to try to make it into an R4? Is that even possible? No,
That's not a $499 lawyer.
Yeah.
That's not
okay. So
that's not a
$50,000
$50,000 tab. What that is that's at least a $150,000 tab, and you need to have some city or county people that you know on the city council or the city council and the
we might know
county
some
board of
people.
supervisors that can help you do that. You need connections for that.
Yeah, and some builders could tell you there's some R1s that you can make into R4s, but most of them, if you're in an R1 area, forget about it unless there's something special. And but before we go into the negative, I think we should end on a high note. The dream of buying that property. We're not saying it's impossible. Find a builder, somebody you know to partner with. Maybe you are a builder. You know, be cautious. It can be done, but it involves work, and we're not all about that. So don't forget to like us and subscribe so you can hear more about hopefully making money with as little risk and effort as possible. That's always the goal. Periodically, we do have to do a little bit of work. And come back and tell us your basement tales, and especially we want to hear your war stories and get y'all on the air. Thanks so much.
Thank you.